Matthew, what we would call in English, what we would say in English of Matthew. This is chapter 19, starting with verse 16. And it says, "Behold, one came unto him and said unto him, Good master, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life?" Verse 17, "And he said unto him, Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is God. But if thou wilt enter into life, keep the commandments." All right, so notice a couple things. In verse 16, once he says to Yeshua, it says he came to him and said, "Good master, what good thing shall I do to have eternal life?" Again, so this is going by the Hebraic tradition and the Hebraic the scriptures of the concept of eternal life is not even just once you transcend from this reality to go on and be with the Most High, but also his presence in this life, specifically according to the New Testament. He says, "Good master." Notice Yeshua says to him, "Why callest thou me good?" So in other words, why do you call me good is what we would say in English, is what today's translation would be. He says, "There is none good but one, that is Yahuwah." So he says, "There's none good but one." So in other words, there's nobody good is what he's saying. There's no one is good, quote unquote, as we would describe and classify good. He said, "There's none good but Yahuwah," that's the Most High. He said, "But if you will enter into life, keep the commandments." So what is he saying? He's saying, you're calling me good. So in other words, there's something about me that you perceive to be good. So you're calling me good master. Master in the Hebrew, of course, is rabbi, and the Jewish is rabbi. But can also mean teacher as well. But that was a title designated to teachers in this day and time. So when he says to him, "Good master," he's essentially giving him the term of a teacher, but also elevating him or promoting him, because again, there's something about him that he perceives to be good, and good in a way of which he has to call it out, as opposed to, just some positive trait or something positive you see somebody else doing. So Yeshua says to him, "Why do you call me good? There's none good but one, which is the Most High, which is Yahuwah." So a lot of people, specifically people who are, people who read the scriptures and study scriptures, who are Torah only adherents, or people who doubt, the existence of the Mashiach. They say, he hasn't come yet, or they don't believe it's one, or whatever camp that they fall into that is anti-New Testament. A lot of people will use this verse to say, "Oh, see, Yeshua was saying right there that there's none good. There's only one. That's Yahuwah. So he couldn't have been the Mashiach." But I would actually argue the opposite, because if you look at what he's saying, he said, "Why do you call me good? There's none good but one. That's Yahuwah." So in other words, what is he saying? He's saying, why do you, he asked him a question first in response to when the young man approached him. And we don't know anything about this young man except for the young man approaching him at this point. The young man approaches him. He says, "Good master." So Yeshua says, "Why do you call me good? There's none good but one, which is Yahuwah, the Most High." So in other words, he's saying, if you perceive that there's some inherent, some innate goodness in me, so much to the point that you have to call it out and distinguish it amongst other teachers and other rabbis, then understand who it is that you're talking to. That could be, and that is the interpretation that you could read into it, especially as we go further. But let's go further. He says, "There's none good but one, that is Yahuwah. But if thou will enter into life, keep the commandments." What commandments is he speaking of? Mainly the 10 commandments, as he's about to speak of. Verse 18, "He saith unto him," the young man, this is speaking of the young man, "which?" So the young man is asking Yeshua, "Which commandments are you speaking of?" It goes on to say, verse 18, "Yeshua said, Thou shalt do no murder, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness." Verse 19, "Honor thy father and thy mother, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." So just really briefly, these are the 10 commandments. So these are the commandments by which Yahuwah passed down to Moses on Mount Sinai in Exodus. So these are the 10 commandments. These are the commandments that are by which, according to the Old Covenant, the Mosaic Covenant, are the kind of like the foundation and the basis of Israel's relationship with the Most High. It became so at that point. as opposed to the New Testament, which is the new covenant, which we'll get into here in a minute, but that it's a new covenant that's based upon faith. It's grace through faith. So in other words, it's the unmerited favor through your faith, which is your response to what Yahuwah, the Most High, has already provided. That bridges the connection. That's what equals salvation. But again, we'll get into that a little bit more further. But he says, and I like how he clarifies, because there's bad translations that will say thou shalt not kill. This specifically says thou shalt do no murder. So what's the difference between kill and murder? One is killing is literally the taking of life. Execution. Murder is premeditated in most times. That's the distinguishing characteristic, this the distinguishing factor. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Adultery, of course, is not sleeping with another man's wife, not sleeping with another woman's husband, or you not being the husband that sleeps out, or the wife that puts out. Thou shalt not steal, self-explanatory. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Honor thy father and thy mother, and thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. So in other words, love your fellow man as yourself. So I'm going to get to in a second how this is not actually what Yeshua, and this is not the basis of salvation. Of course, as we know, through the new covenant. And this is also not what Yeshua actually wanted to communicate to him, but he had to communicate to this young man in a particular way due to certain factors that we'll see in just a moment. So you see that Yeshua comes back at the young man. The young man's asking how to obtain eternal life, and seeking qualifying factors at this point, because he asked him which commandments, right? And we'll expound on all of this in just a moment as to what all of this actually means, right? But he asked, what good thing would he do to inherit eternal life? Yeshua says to him, why do you call me good? There's none good but one, which is Yahuwah, the Most High. But if you will enter into life, but in other words, if you will enter into life, so in other words, but if you decide to, if this is what you are truly seeking after, keep the commandments. Now, again, the commandments are not the basis of salvation, and it's not actually what Yeshua would have communicated to him under different circumstances. But again, we'll get into why he had to communicate to this young man in this manner in a moment that reveals it. Once the young man responds to him again in verse 18, it says to him, which Yeshua says back to him, he recites the commandments, right? You should not murder. You should not commit adultery. You should not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. In other words, lie. Thou shalt honor thy father and thy mother, and love your neighbor as yourself, right? Verse 20, the young man says unto him, and this is almost immediately, because, you see no pause, no break in the conversation, and the flow of the conversation is just steady going. The young man saith unto him, all these have I kept from my youth up. What lack I yet? This is the New Revised Version. The New Revised Version says, let's see, verse 20. The young man said unto him, all these I have observed. What do I still lack? So again, notice the responses from this young man. Every time he asks, he comes to Yeshua from the set, recognizing and publicly acknowledging, making a proclamation that he is a good master, good teacher. So in other words, he's more than just your regular teacher. He's a good teacher, good in the sense that this is something, again, that distinguishes him and sets him apart from the rest of the rabbis and the teachers who were already presiding there, because none of them had got the designation as good teacher and good master. So I think we can all at least agree on that. Notice, though, as he's going along, he's always asking questions and seeking ways to justify himself, or to qualify himself, or whatever superlative you want to put in there, right? He's looking for ways to or for whatever adverb you want to put in there. He's looking for ways to justify himself, to excuse himself, and to qualify himself to the master, although he's asking at the same time, what is it that I must do to inherit eternal life? You have to understand and notice and pay attention to the intricacy of the conversation that's taking place, and also what the exchange that's actually going on. Because he's seeking to obtain something from Yeshua. Understand, this is why he approaches him with the term good master. but at the same time, he's seeking to qualify himself while he's speaking to him. So in other words, it's almost as if to say, not even almost, this is essentially what he's doing. He's seeking something from an individual, but at the same time trying to justify or trying to qualify himself as to why either he's deserving of it or doesn't need it in the first place. I hope that makes sense, but let's just continue. Verse 21, Yeshua says unto him, if thou will be perfect, again, notice, pay attention to the language. If thou will be perfect, go and sell that thou hast and give to the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven, and come and follow me. So in other words, Yeshua says to him, if you will be perfect, go and sell what you have, give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and come and follow me. So notice he says to him, if you'll be perfect, go and sell what you have, and then you will have treasure in Shamayim, which is the heaven, which is, again, our English term heaven is a very basic sounding, very simplistic term. But you know, heaven, the realm of heaven, is not as simplistic. But that's not the point. The point is that Yeshua says to him, if you'll be perfect, sell your possessions. Now, again, notice, remember when I said that before, following all the commandments, tit for tat, is not what Yeshua actually desired of this young man, and is not actually the way to eternal life. Also, likewise, following that same train of thought and in the same conversation, selling his possessions was not the way to eternal life, and it's not the way in the covenant with the Most High, with the living God. What is Yeshua saying to him here? What is the message that's being communicated? Let's go on now. Let's just read the rest of it, and then we'll come back. Yeshua said unto him, if you will be perfect, go and sell what you have, give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and come and follow me. But when the young man heard that saying, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. Then said Yeshua to his disciples, verily or truly I say unto you, that a rich man shall hardly enter into the kingdom of heaven. That word hardly in the Greek is impracticably. So it's like very impractical. So, you know, if we think of, you know, we understand what impractical means. It's not going to be feasible from a convenience standpoint, or just from a step-by-step standpoint for people who are rich. And then why? Is it because the riches disqualify them? No, it's because of the state of their heart, which is the heart confides in the riches. The heart feels that their riches are their sole security, which we'll get into that because that's deep, because the riches are not. Only in this realm, family, in this earthly realm, in this 3-4 dimensional realm, whichever you want to classify it as, only in this realm is where your money, your fiat currency, means something, right? And truth be told, it's not even the most potent currency or the most potent forms of exchange that you could have, right? Because it's probably politics, your relationships, right? But again, going back to the basis of what we're talking about, your money can only grant you certain things in this realm. Once you transcend this life, once you breathe your last breath from this clay vessel, this carbon vessel that we're in, and you transcend into whatever other life that you're about to go into, your money and your material possessions and things of this realm will mean nothing, literally nothing. So, you know, this is what Yeshua was saying, and when he says, this is what he's alluding to, should I say, when he says that you will have treasure in heaven. He's alluding to your next state of existence, the next state of being, which, you know, we could say many things about that, but it's needless to say, it's a state of existence that none of us can really fathom at this point in time. We have allusions and aversions to it because of what we can read in the scriptures and the things that we can deduce from ancient texts. However, we know that we just cannot fully comprehend and fully appreciate what another state of existence will be, especially a higher state of existence. So said all of that to say is that it's like the saying goes, you want it now or you want it forever, right? You want to enjoy it now or you want to appreciate it and cherish it forever. So it's to say that, again, when the rich young man had because once it got revealed that he had great possessions. See, the thing about it is the Most High in Yeshua always, it's never about the superficial stuff. So it's never about the the commandments. Like, so in other words, it is about the commandments, but basically what I'm saying, and I'll expound upon this, is it wasn't about earlier when he said to him, thou shalt do no murder, thou shalt not commit adultery, right? Because we know these is the 10 commandments. But what did the Paul go on to expound upon in the New Testament? He said that and made clear that there's nothing wrong with the law in and of itself, right? The law in and of itself is fine because it's holy, it's pure, it comes from the Most High. However, the law has no power to make you or to make myself holy or to make us acceptable to the Most High. So in other words, what is the point? The point is that Christ was telling the young man and was getting at him because the young man kept trying to qualify himself. And if you notice, that's what it always is when people are coming to the Most High. And this is what either keeps someone from the Most High or is makes you able to have fellowship with the Most High, is either the presumption. Another way that you could put it is it's always the elevation of self. It's always, mankind always has to elevate self, right? We know that there's people who doubt and they'll say that, man created God in his image, even though the scriptures indicate that it was actually Yah who created man in his image. And so what mankind has done, and this has been the same since the Garden of Eden, the same lie of the serpent, is that he puts the focus back on self. So it's always the elevation of ego, it's always the elevation of self above the Most High. So this is why it's always a matter of what we think and our qualifications and justifications as it's opposed to the Most High. Is that even when the Most High is in front of us, we can't accept him because it has to be a basis of our works. You see, and that's the revelation. And this is the revelation even in the New Testament. And this is why the Apostle Paul made clear that it's by grace through faith, not of works, so that nobody can boast. You see, to be reconciled with the Most High, most people don't want to accept that it has to be all of Yah and none of self. See, we always want human nature wants to include some of what we do in there, right? It's always of what we can throw in, what we can include to qualify self and to justify self, right? And you notice this with the young man in the ruler. Everything that he said, Lord, I've kept these commandments. I have, I've not committed adultery. I haven't, bearing false witness. Yada yada yada. And you notice the Yeshua didn't even come immediately back at him. So this young man may or may not have been, however, righteous, because Yeshua didn't even buck back immediately and say, "What? Wait a second." You see what I'm saying? So the young man may have been, however, righteous. However, when you're coming to the Most High again, this is what the basis of the new covenant is, and this is what the stumbling block is that keeps a lot of people from coming to the Most High, is not only the pride of man, but that pride of life that it talks about, of the pride of things that you have accomplished, what you know in your mind, the things that you feel that you have conquered, right? Whether it be physically, literally in life, in the areas around you, or whether what you feel you have conquered, psychologically, spiritually, metaphorically, financially, foundationally, in whatever aspect and regard. We always want to qualify ourselves and justify ourselves before the Most High. However, the Most High, his attitude toward is there's nothing that you can do. Like, are you serious? Look around. This whole universe is mine. Do you see the sky? You see the stars? You see the planets? This is my handiwork. So if you want to do it, compare anything that you've done, compare what you've done, compare it to that. Compare it to my greatest creations. And my greatest creation is, of course, us. So getting off track a little bit, got off on a tangent, but needless to say, said that to say that with the rich young man, and so let's finish it out, right? When the disciples heard this, they were exceedingly amazed. Who then can be saved? Which is the natural reaction that anybody would have. Yeshua beheld them and said unto them, with men this is impossible, but with Yahuwah all things are possible. Then answered Peter and said unto him, behold, we have forsaken all and followed you. What will we have therefore? And so that gets into some other stuff. That's not a part of the message that I wanted to convey. But again, essentially you see that the confidence in riches, it can only get you so far, and even as far as it will take you will be in this realm, right? When it comes to actual power, okay, monetary power is power. We're not going to deny that. Get your coins. I'm not denying to get your coins. Please get your coins. Everybody under the sound of my voice, get your coins. I'm not saying be fiscally irresponsible. Please understand me, right? But at the same time, understand what I'm also saying is that spiritual principles and certain things that really exist on a higher plane, and that would transcend further into, what we would know as time and reality. These things take precedent over money. Again, even we just established your politics and your relationships take precedent over your money, even in this realm here. So again, just going back to the parable of the rich young man, you see that with the Most High, he's not about what's in your hand or the superficial things. He's always after your heart. You see what I'm saying? And it's not ironic is that when the scriptures say, when the Most High speaks through the prophets, it says, you will find me when you seek me diligently, and you'll find me when you seek me with your entire heart. He's saying that because whenever you're truly after something, you're truly looking for something, and you're after the heart of a matter, you will get to it, right? It's the same way for a person. If you're either trying to get to know a person in their heart, in other words, you're trying to get to know that person for that person, or you're trying to get to know their hand. What is the hand? The hand is what they can do for you, their utility. And not even consequently, this is what we have too much of in the world today. At least I can testify for the West, is we have too many people seeking what's in each other's hands. Too many people seeking the utility of one another. Too many people looking at, and too many of us always looking at what somebody can or can't do for us. And we use that for that to be a qualifying thing as to what either usefulness or even value or worth the person has, and not only to our life, but in life in general. So just go on to show that even that superficial stuff doesn't hold up with the Most High. And the Most High, even more than not, he's after your heart. And if you seek him, you need to be after his heart as well. Don't be after his hand, because you can be after somebody's hand, but you will never know their heart. And if you get the heart, the hand will move. If you move somebody, so you get to somebody's heart, the hand will move for you without you having to ask. But if you go for the hand, the hand may move once or twice. The hand may not move at all. But if you go strictly for the hand and that's it, nothing's guaranteed. So in other words, just be after things for the essence of what they really are, the truth of the matter. And again, going back to the lesson with the Most High, because I know I'm kind of like all over the place. But again, you see the lesson with the Most High in this rich young man is that riches will not grant you your interest in heaven. And heaven is not even the main focal point, because relationship and covenant with the Most High, which is possible in the here and now, in this present life, this is literally what heaven is. So you can have heaven on earth. However, at the same time, that'll be dependent upon each person. The end of self is the beginning of God. Questions, comments, concerns, leave them in the descriptions below. If you want to get in touch with me, my email will be down below. Like, comment, subscribe, of course. Comment what you want to see next. If anything I left out, you have any questions, please let me know. I'll holler back. Peace.